So before I kind of formally asked you as a journalist who Maura Lyons was, you grew up in West Belfast. Had you heard tell of Maura Lyons?
I had heard of her. I mean, around the time that Ian Paisley became known as a public figure, people were saying, "Oh, him," because they'd heard of him before, and they'd heard of him in relation to the Maura Lyons story. So Maura Lyons became this kind of... I mean, I was 5 years old at the time it happened, but I was into my teens when Paisley emerged in the public sphere. And so this was kind of spoken of almost as having a kind of mythological power. Oh, that's him. He's the one who was involved in the Maura Lyons. Well, to be pretty blunt, and we're not defaming anyone since he's dead, he's the one who kidnapped Maura Lyons, was the way it would have been put. Now, that's a very superficial reading of what actually happened as far as we know what happened.
Well, but the listeners can make up their own mind.
But just to give you the sense that when you approached me and said, can you tell us about the Maura Lyons story, I recognised the name immediately because it had that kind of resonance, an almost mythological resonance, as something from way back that I hadn't heard of in a long time, but had registered in the mind of a young man and stayed there.
So who was she? What can we say factually beyond the myth?
Well, we can see a photograph of her. I'm looking at one from the newsletter at the time. I mean, she's a very attractive young woman. She has, how would I describe her? I would describe her as having good teeth, bright eyes, an aquiline nose and a nice curl in her hair, and she's fair-haired. And I mean, it's a nice smiling photograph. So it was taken at a time, I suppose, when she was happy herself. The picture that I'm looking at appears in the newsletter on the day that or the day after, because it's a report, that she turned up at the house of Ian Paisley. Let's backtrack a wee bit and get the story. Here was a Catholic girl, 15 years old, living in Iris Drive, wasn't it, in near the Springfield Road, so it's Falls Road area, Beachmount area. And she was working in the Star clothing factory, and she was influenced by Protestants that she was working with, and she decided that she wanted to be a Presbyterian. She went to church with them. She was taken up by that. She loved the religion of free Presbyterianism, of evangelical Christianity, as she discovered it. And I suppose she felt well loved by the people around her who were inviting her into that, because it can be very nice to be part of a community of people. When she went home and told her parents, that she basically was a Protestant now, the old joke, oh my God. Anyway, aside from that, she says that her father said he would have her put in a convent. Now, I don't know if that's even feasible, but it perhaps was feasible that she could have been, because this was at the time when young women who were getting pregnant, who were in undesirable relationships, were being put into convents and the Magdalene Laundry, usually in circumstances where the girl was pregnant, but still in all, those institutions existed. So she believed the threat of her father, I will put you in a convent. And living in the lower falls, or not in the mid falls, in the Beachmount area at that time, it's fairly likely that she knew girls who had got pregnant, who had children, and who had been shunted away from their homes, and who had become a disgrace and a secret within the community. So she may well indeed have had something to fear. She told that story to her new evangelical friends, that she was afraid that she couldn't go home, that she would be taken into a convent, and that she would be indoctrinated back into her Catholic faith. So they took her away. They shunted her off to Scotland and looked after her there. And there's no, the story that I would have been told as a young person was she was kidnapped, but there's no particular sense that she was kidnapped. But she was a juvenile, and she shouldn't have been taken away from her family home, but she was, and she was taken to Scotland. Ian Paisley got involved. Sorry, you're going to interject with a question?
I was just going to say, she did say her father beat her and called in 3 Roman Catholic priests who seemed determined, in her words, to force her into a convent life, and that she escaped from a bedroom window. So, her recollection was that she actively escaped.
Yeah. I mean, that's plausible enough, isn't it? I mean, but we're getting the story of a child as told to the evangelicals who support her, and there may be some exaggeration in that, there may not be. But essentially, she genuinely felt under pressure restore, to come back into the Catholic fold, and she had these friends who were able to take her away to Scotland. Then, Ian, there was a lot of media discussion around that and speculation on what has happened to her. Has she been kidnapped? Has she been legally removed? Not legally removed, obviously, since she's a juvenile. And Ian Paisley gets involved. Ian Paisley announces that he's going to hold a big rally at the Ulster Hall, and he will play a recording of the voice of Maura Lyons to prove that she is happy, she is well, she has found her new faith, she's content within it, and that she is frightened of her family. That happens. The tape is played in the Ulster Hall. There's a big crowd there. There are prayers said for her. Paisley's, in a sense, has got one of the big issues of the kind that he liked. I mean, he was a man who loved to place himself in the public realm, in the media, and at the heart of a story. His position was, I know nothing about this. Don't look at me. I'm not guilty. I didn't kidnap her. But I understand why she's away, and I do understand the feelings of the people who are protecting her. And so, in a sense, he's getting some kind of kudos for being at the heart of the story while distancing himself from the actual practicalities of it, so that to avoid, in order, presumably, to evade arrest. Then she turns up on his doorstep, you know. Then she turns up on his doorstep on her 16th birthday. I haven't the precise date here. I think it was May the 27th, 1956. Am I right? Anyway, we can check that. She turns up on his doorstep. 16-year-old Belfast girl who has been missing from her home for more than 6 months made a dramatic reappearance in the city yesterday. I'm looking here at the journalism of the newsletter around that story, and that really strikes me as fascinating as well. But essentially, police headquarters issued this statement last night. Maura Lyons, formerly of 78 Irish Drive, Belfast, was removed from number 423 Beersbridge Road, Belfast, by the police this evening on a warrant granted under the Children and Young Persons Act 1950 as being a person in need of care and protection. 423 Beersbridge Road was the home of the Rev Ian Paisley and his wife Eileen. They had just recently been married. They'd been married the previous autumn. Paisley, when asked about Maura Lyons, said that he didn't know her, but that she had been at his wedding. She'd been in the congregation at his wedding, and she was looking for protection when she came to his home. So he said he was happy to provide that protection. So what happened there was that Eileen Paisley gave an interview to the paper as well, said she was a nice wee girl. We brought her into the house, we gave her tea, and we called the police because she was looking for the protection of the police. So she was taken then to the office of the City Police Commissioner, Mr. H.A. Geelan, at Templemore Avenue, and with arrangements for her to appear at the juvenile court. So, looking at the story as told there's a number of things that really fascinate me. One of the things that fascinates me is that in those pre-Troubles days, although 56 wasn't entirely pre-Troubles days, there was an IRA campaign on at the time, but Paisley's full address being given, the actual door number of the house that Maura Lyons lives at in Iris Drive, and the degree of media interest. Because if I showed you that newspaper report now and you were reading that for the first time, you would think that was the tabloid journalism of the 1970s or 80s, and it's got this vivacity about it, this incredible drama to the headlining and the language of it.
It's a big story.
It's a big story.
See it.
It's a big story. And the story says that, up to 20 photographers were gathered around the police commissioner's office when she was taken there, which sounds amazing. I know at that time the Irish News, for instance, didn't even have a photographer. So who these 20 photographers were or not, whether that's a hyping up of the story or whether it's a reality. Anyway, she is brought before the juvenile court, rather than sent home to her parents, because she's 16 years old, and the court rules that she must go back to her family, but there's a strict order that the family cannot interfere with her developing religious beliefs. If Maura Lyons has decided now that she's a Protestant, an evangelical Christian, then a free Presbyterian, then the family have to honour that.
it's almost a King Solomon type of judgment. You know, she must go back to her family, but they cannot take her back into Catholicism.
They cannot force her to be a Catholic. Yeah, yeah.
And we do understand, you know, Maura Lyons, we really don't know very little about what happened next. But what we do know is that she did get married. She had 3 children, and she returned to Catholicism, and she brought up her children as Catholics, and like she would be 85 years of age now. So I mean, there's every chance.
Every chance that she's still alive. We don't know where she is. If she's listening to us, it'd be delightful if she got in touch.